Following a 9-year hiatus, Captain America has returned to the silver screen with his latest escapade, Brave New World. Despite its large budget dwarfing the GDP of a small island nation and a cast composed of Hollywood royalty, it has been of mixed commercial and critical success. You would have thought that after such a long period that the film would have been well thought out, well written, and have some interesting new takes on the genre, with it being the first film to feature Anthony Mackie's iteration of Captain America. But the latest edition fails to have any of these things and really feels like it was made just for the sake of having another film out in the cinemas. The main takeaway message from this film for me was, wow, what a disappointment. This film could have been so much more. My main problems with this film are spoiler related, but first we'll have a very quick non-spoiler chat. I'll begin with a positive. It's not all bad. I think the performances are all pretty good, and in a better written film, these characters could have been much more interesting. I particularly liked Anthony Mackie and Harrison Ford. I thought they're both believable as Captain America and President Ross, respectively. And I thought Harrison Ford brought some big energy to the screen. Moving over to some quick complaints before we get into the spoilers. Look, nothing happens in this film that you would not expect going into it. Captain America does his action sequence to retrieve some MacGuffin, while a shadowy figure in the background seems to be pulling the strings of the new president. The main problems with this film are in writing, character motivations, quite boring action, and ugly visual effects. Okay, we're talking spoilers now. If you don't want to get spoiled, turn off the video or just keep it going so I can get some watch time. Just, walk out the room. One of my main issues with the film then is the internal conflict that Sam Wilson is going through. In this film, he's often left questioning, why did I not take the super soldier serum? He almost doesn't feel like he can be Captain America without it. Or so he keeps saying, but as much as he says that he struggles without it, we don't really see him actually struggle without it, because his suit is just so powerful it almost negates the need for it, which is related to another of the key issues, which is the writing in this film. Early into the film, in that first action sequence, to show that he's struggling without the super soldier serum, he fights, big bloke, he fights a big guy, which he struggles in a little bit, but he ultimately wins the fight. And then later in the film, we see him fight Red Hulk, and he doesn't really do that much worse than Steve Rogers would have done against the Hulk. And it all comes down to the fact that his suit is so powerful that it just means it's fine that he hasn't got the super soldier serum. He doesn't actually experience that great a struggle. And a better written film could have featured, a less powerful suit, maybe a scenario where he has to go without the suit for some periods. He ends up in sort of a Die Hard or a Dread or the Raid situation where he's having to battle against powerful foes, but he hasn't got all the gear to help him out. And that would be a good way to demonstrate the struggle that he's going through and show his ability to come through that adversity. The only time in this film he goes without the suit, he ends up getting stabbed and still manages to beat up the guy who stabs him quite easily, really. And ultimately, that comes down to the writing. I feel a more genuine conflict for Sam would maybe have been his struggles being the first African-American Captain America, and not just the internal struggle he goes through, but as well how the external world would view him as a result of that. But I do feel that having maybe a family member or a friend who cuts Sam off entirely because he chooses to be Captain America would be an interesting situation to put him in. Captain America could have been forced, do I keep wearing the suit or do I maintain this relationship with this person I love? And then also he can relate to Harrison Ford's character, whose daughter has cut him off due to his actions, and I thought that would be a much more interesting way of having some internal struggle for this character. I obviously understand this film is aimed at a younger demographic, so maybe they didn't want to include that sort of a conflict, which is fine. But if your film wasn't going to be written great, at least have some good action, and this film certainly does not. The action is largely boring. Thinking back to those old Captain America films, there were some, fantastic action sequences. You're thinking in particular, some of the hand-to-hand combat in The Winter Soldier is just top class. And this film hasn't got any of that. It's entirely serviceable. I mean, when I say it's boring, I don't mean it's bad, but It's the same as everything else. It doesn't stand out. I feel like there could have been some really interesting ways to use the shield and use the suit in combination, which there was maybe little bits of, but it didn't go as far as I believe it could have. And again, quite disappointing. Another issue, I'm just rattling these off, I've got so many, is, Mr. Probability, whatever his name was, the main villain, this shadowy character with a weird head, Look, do not get me started on this guy. What a thoroughly unlikable freak. I mean, I am so glad that he was locked in prison, like, most of his life. Even look, I can calculate the probabilities of anything. Oh, wow, that's really cool. Also, his probabilities were wrong. Like, in key moments, he got his probabilities wrong. So he wasn't even that smart. He's just like, I can sort of get things right some of the time. Well, that's great. Like, anyone can do that. It's, He spends the whole film being annoyed and being angry that he's been imprisoned his whole life since he's been given these powers of probability. And as soon as he manages to escape his imprisonment, he instantly gets himself captured on purpose. He's like, I need it for my master plan. But his master plan would have worked without him being captured. So he's just an idiot. He's not even, Mr. Smart. He's just, Jesus, that was crap. And then you look at Giancarlo Esposito in this film, and it's just, that is a great example of a brilliant actor totally wasted in a useless role. I mean, that could have been anyone. What was the point of getting such a good actor to play such a paper-thin role? Just a waste. Another thing which I didn't enjoy were the visual effects, which were at times horrible and genuinely unpleasant to look at. It has like a fake, weird, glossy look, like a PS3 cutscene. Just bizarre and bad. Look, I didn't want to be so negative about this film, but ultimately I'm incredibly disappointed. Maybe I'm partly to blame because of that, hoping to see something refreshing, something brave, something new from an MCU film. I'm going to give this film 2 stars out of 5. Captain America Brave New World, more like Craptin America, boring, old,